Hello everyone, my name is Kiki and I'll be doing an oral presentation on my own cultural identity, how it came to be, and its effect on the outside sources of our world. As we recall from our textbook readings, videos, or even everyday life, our culture is a part of our identity. It answers the internal question of who we are as a person, how we view ourselves, and how we interact with others in the world. In chapter 1 of our textbook in Exploring Intercultural Communication on page 13, our culture is defined as an accumulated pattern of values, beliefs, and behaviors shared by an identifiable group of people with a common history and verbal and nonverbal symbol systems. The reason why there are so many people with many different cultures are due to their various upbringings and the unique interactions between people who come from different environments of distinct beliefs, practices, and values. As for myself, I am Chinese. Being a member of my own dominant culture involves speaking the same language, having the same behaviors and traditions that have been passed down through generations. My family speaks Cantonese, but I was enrolled into Chinese school at a young age, so I did have the fortunate opportunity to learn Mandarin. Mandarin is another dialect of Chinese. Not only does being Chinese influence how I communicate, it's also expressed in how I tell stories and maintain my religious values. Conformity, a concept noted in our textbook, is when we accept the norms and values of our dominant group. For example, I am a Buddhist, and we practice Buddhism by praising the Buddha, who is essentially an enlightened individual and being that's known to be wise and carry a lot of wisdom in our culture. It revolves around the idea of compassion, karma, and pursuing enlightenment, meaning that we believe that those who do good things will have good things happen to them, and those who do bad things will have bad things happen to them. And we also believe that there is a heaven and hell as well. This is also tied into our values of respecting elders and establishing a sense of community. We also hold social gatherings like family dinners, birthdays, Chinese New Year, Mid-Autumn Festival, and more as a way of fostering a sense of shared identity and belonging. Because my family didn't come from a wealthy background, a co-cultural group that I resonate with would be a low-income household of being a Chinese American. Another co-cultural group would be the oldest daughter in an Asian family. These are both examples that I feel like play a critical role in shaping who I am as an individual today, because it influences my identity in different ways. As someone who watched my mother grow up in the provinces of China earning hard-earned money through weaving baskets at only a couple cents to $1, hard work is a principle that's exercised a lot in our values. It's also a common group and similarity amongst my community of people who also identify as low income, such as my friends. Because I also have a younger sister and my parents both don't speak English, they had to immigrate to the United States at a young age and also had to look for low-paying jobs to support our family. Another group that I also associate with is being the oldest daughter and the responsibilities that come with it. I have to take care of the mail and also translate whenever there's a chance to. In Asian culture, being a boy is more valuable because during marriage, girls are married off out of their households, while the boys stay in their original household. That's why Chinese people tend to be more biased towards the boys or males. Being a part of both of these groups shaped my mindset on issues like gender roles and norms, economic opportunities, and more. Relating this to Gert Hofstede's 6 categories, such as power, distance, individualism versus collectivism, masculinity versus femininity, uncertainty avoidance, long-term versus short-term, orientation, and lastly, indulgence versus restraint. These are all evident in my culture, as I had previously mentioned, and like the gender norms. This is also tied with the different types of esteems as well. It's also very important to consider collective self-esteem. This shows how we view ourselves in relation to the groups that we associate ourselves with, such as being a woman and being an Asian American. In terms of private collective esteem, it gives me pride and fulfillment. But in membership esteem, I feel validated and sense that other people are acknowledging my efforts to be in the community. If that sense of community is lost in translation, it can get complicated and it could perpetuate animosity and prejudice, which is essentially what ethnocentrism is. It's the idea that believing one race is more superior than the others. Miscommunication can happen, and people will have a biased image of what each ethnicity should be acting and how they should be acting. It's also what makes up our cultural identity, which is what we have learned in our textbook in Chapter 3 as well. I'm very proud of my culture, and I'm very blessed to be a Chinese Asian American. I like our traditions, our food, our principles and values, and there's so much more that I enjoy, but these are the top picks that I would choose as the main points of being a Chinese. It affects how I view others and how I treat others in the way I want to be treated. There are also studies that show that Asians are also known as the model minority, meaning that they're more successful, well-educated, and wealthy. However, this shouldn't encourage the idea of stereotyping or enforcing the idea that Asians should be only interacting with other Asians only. In the article called "But We're Not a Multicultural School," Locating Intercultural Relations and Reimagining Intercultural Education as an Act of Coming to Terms with Our Roots, on page 8 by Tanya Davies, it states that this, quote unquote, this is not a multicultural school, so intercultural understanding is not a priority for us, quote, period. Maybe you should go to a more visibly diverse school, quote. This statement insinuates animosity and biased behavior towards other racial groups. Another example of this is seen in a different article called Towards, quote unquote, Towards Post-Intercultural Teacher Education, Analyzing Extreme Intercultural Dialogue to Reconstruct Interculturality, European Journal of Teacher by Fred Dervine. And stated on page 3, it states, for instance, he criticizes the omnipresent idea that Asian students show blind obedience to authority. They lack critical thinking skills and they do not actively participate in classroom interaction. This shows that Asian Americans are constantly being looked down on and also encourages racism. Going back to my culture, some customs and traditions that we celebrate are mainly focused on Chinese New Year's. It's the biggest holiday for us, where we receive red envelopes as signs of good fortune from our family and relatives. We eat traditional foods like mooncakes, rice noodles, and white rice, which is a sign of purity and wealthiness, to signify the importance of family unity and togetherness. Going to the temple and praying is also another tradition of ours, to respect the ancestors and to acknowledge that their presence was once there. Although I was born in the province called Guangdong in China, other Chinese communities might have different traditions. For example, those born in mainland China, Shanghai, Hong Kong, would have other customs and traditions as well. Tying this to my workplace, we believe that hard work is earned through paid-off efforts. If you work hard, you will have a good outcome and good life. Because my family grew up working hard in the villages and earning money by physically planting crops, I also truly believe that hard work pays off. And it's seen in the workplace when you put your heart to it, meaning that your boss will probably recognize your hard work and give you a promotion in the long term. Meaningful work can be something simple, such as helping your coworker with a cup of coffee or printing something out. These are all crucial as long as you are genuine in your work and you're genuine in your professional attitude and identity. However, this is a lot easier said than done because racism in the workplace is still possible, and it's also a concept mentioned in the article Intercultural Communication by Will Baker. And it's also mentioned in the article Intercultural Impoliteness by Istvan Keskis, because it highlights how other cultures might not perceive words and phrases the same way. It's considered impolite to say things a certain way because other cultures might not perceive it as nice, but rather perceive it as rude. In this course, what surprised me the most about my cultural intelligence results is that I was struggling with communicating with people outside of my culture as my comfort zone. However, now I've often avoided speaking to people who are not similarly to me, but now I find joy in seeing the differences in cultures and how there are gray areas of similarities. I think my score now, if I had to retake the cultural intelligence quiz, it would have gone up compared to how it was before. I truly enjoyed diving deeper into my cultural identity and what factors it have influenced, and how I can educate myself into exploring my own culture better and how others can do the same as well. Thank you for listening to my presentation.